This video is sponsored by Card Kingdom. If you click on the link in the description below, it'll take you to their store and they'll know I sent you there. Hi everyone, I'm Nitsa Hone, and it's Friday, so that means it's time for another MTG Top 10, the series where I rank cards based on their historical performance at Magic's highest level of competition. Strixhaven preview season is well underway at this point, and obviously enough, one of the big themes in this set is instants and sorceries. The Mystical Archive is entirely made up of these, and the Magecraft mechanic is all about them. This got me to thinking about the best instant and sorcery payoffs in the game. In shorthand, we typically refer to these as spell payoffs, and while simply calling them spells is not technically correct within the game, because anything that isn't a land is a spell, I will be using spells as shorthand in this video to refer to instants and sorceries. We see payoffs for instants and sorceries appear the most often in blue and red. I excluded cards that do things with non-creature spells more generally, as that is something I covered in the Prowess video. To be eligible for this list, a card had to give you some sort of benefit for playing instants and sorceries. In all, there are 259 cards that were eligible for this list, and in this video we'll talk about the 10 that have left the biggest impact on competitive Magic. Before we get started, here's a quick reminder on how I score cards in these videos. A top 8 at a Pro Tour, Players Tour, Mythic Championship, Mythic Invitational, Legacy, or Vintage Championship is worth 2 points, and a top 8 at a Grand Prix or Magic Fest is worth 1 point. At number 10, it is Niv Mizzet, Perrin. This big flyer does a bunch of stuff, including letting you draw a card when an instant or sorcery spell is played. And when you do draw that card, or any card, you also get to do 1 damage to something, so you have quite the value engine on your hands. Because the instant or sorcery payoff here includes your opponent, it means that Niv Mizzet will at least net you a card and 1 damage, even if he gets killed right away by an instant or sorcery. That's a pretty good fail case. If he's allowed to stay and play a couple of turns, he usually takes over. This makes him a great win condition for control decks. The fact he can't be countered and punishes your opponent for playing instants and sorceries also makes him a nice win condition against control decks. He's found mainboard success in standard in decks like Izzet Drakes, Izzet Flash, and Izzet Phoenix, though he more frequently appears in the sideboards of those decks to bring in against control decks. He also showed up in the sideboard of most Temur Reclamation decks for the same reason. He's also being played in Pioneer sideboards. He's no longer in Standard, and the deck he was part of in Pioneer got banned out of existence, Lotus Breach, so it remains to be seen whether Niv Mizzet will gain more points in the future. At number 9, it's Arclight Phoenix, which returns to the battlefield from your graveyard if you cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells on your turn. Decks running a bunch of 1-mana instants and sorceries that had loot and rummage effects helped make Arclight Phoenix decks key in both Standard and Modern. Getting multiple Phoenixes back in a single turn is a pretty powerful thing, and those decks could do it. In Modern, Faithless Looting ended up getting banned to nerf a number of graveyard decks, and since then, Arclight Phoenix doesn't have any points. At number 8, it is Mystic Sanctuary, a land which lets you put an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library if it comes into play untapped. This card might seem kind of innocuous, and in Standard it really was, not gaining a single point. However, it has proven to be quite powerful in other formats, even getting banned out of Modern in July of 2020. This is because it could create a lock of sorts when combined with Cryptic Command. Whatever option you chose with it, you'd also choose to bounce the Sanctuary, which you could then replay to get Cryptic Command back. Mana is good enough in Modern that getting it into play untapped wasn't much of a challenge either. You could even search up the Sanctuary with a fetch land because it has the island type, making it even easier to assemble this lock. This made blue-based decks too strong in the format, resulting in its ban. It's still legal in the Eternal formats though, and it is pretty good in those formats for similar reasons. In Legacy, it combines particularly well with Miracles, because you want those to be the card you draw first on a turn, and the Sanctuary makes that happen for you. It's pretty close to a staple in blue vintage decks too. It's going to continue to gain points in the Eternal formats, and the sky may really be the limit for Mystic Sanctuary's score. At number 7, it is Dreadhorde Arcanist. When it attacks, it lets you cast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard for free, provided it has a mana value less than or equal to its power. This makes it a great payoff for filling your graveyard with cheap spells, and that is something that is currently being exploited in multiple formats. In Standard, it was utilized in red-white feather decks that were interested in playing lots of cheap combat tricks. In Historic, it was played in Rakdos aggro decks. In Pioneer, its 1 point came in a Wizard's tribal deck. However, it has gained the bulk of its points in the Eternal formats, where there are a bunch of cheap spells for the Arcanist to feast on. In Legacy, it's played in the spell-heavy Delver deck, and it ended up being so good in that format that it got banned in February of 2021. In Vintage, it helped coin the name of an entire archetype, Jeskai Xerox, which gets its name from copying tons of spells with cards like the Arcanist. It's going to continue to gain points going forward. At number 6, it is Thing in the Ice. This spell payoff starts out as a 2-mana 0/4, but once you play enough spells, it transforms into a Woken Horror, who then bounces everything that isn't a horror, while also bringing some impressive stats. Good spell decks can flip this in a hurry, and transforming it is one of the biggest tempo plays around. In Standard, Thing in the Ice was primarily played as a win condition in Izzet control decks, but it didn't find a ton of success in that format, only managing 7 points. Thing in the Ice has seen play in Modern pretty much from the start, appearing in decks like Jeskai Pyromancer and Blue Moon as far back as 2016, and more recently showing up in Izzet Phoenix decks, which specialize in casting a ton of spells in the early game, something that Thing in the Ice is always happy about. Izzet Phoenix decks have been considerably weakened by the banning of Faithless Looting, so it'll be interesting to see if Thing in the Ice has a home in Modern going forward. Even if it can't find a home in Modern though, Thing in the Ice also sees play in Vintage, where it is very easy to flip because there are lots of high-powered spells in the format. It doesn't have any points since 2020, but I don't think we can count it out just yet. At number 5, it is Chandra, Pyromaster. She's a spell payoff as a result of her ultimate, which lets you look at the top 10 cards of your library and cast an instant or sorcery spell from among them 3 times without paying its mana cost. She also has a 0 loyalty ability that does the red impulsive draw thing, which means she can be a source of card advantage every turn, and a +1 that lets you kill small things, damage your opponent, and make creatures unable to block, including in the decks you'd expect, like various red aggro builds. But she was even played in decks like Devotion to Green, where she doesn't help your devotion at all, and that does a good job of explaining how good of a card she is. She's also been played in Modern Jund decks and has a single point from a mono-red Prison deck in Legacy. She doesn't have any points since 2018. At number 4, it is Young Pyromancer, who is Chandra's biggest fan, so he's probably pretty excited to be right next to Chandra on this list. But anyway, he makes a 1/1 elemental token anytime you play an instant or sorcery. That's pretty great and adds some serious value to spells that already tend to be pretty efficient and powerful. The Pyromancer is considered by some to be the best 2-drop in the game, and at the very least, it's in the conversation. Over the years, it's been played in decks in every format that are interested in playing a ton of instants and sorceries because it allows you to play a control game, counter spells, lightning bolt your opponent's creatures, while still adding to your board with those elemental tokens who can eventually run your opponent over. It's been played in Delver decks in Modern, Legacy, and Vintage. Young Pyromancer is going to continue to put up points in the future. At number 3, it is Jace Vryn's Prodigy, a looter which eventually amounts to being a powerful 2-mana planeswalker. Once he transforms into Jace Telepath Unbound, he has a -3 that lets you cast instants or sorceries from your graveyard, and there are probably some in there because you looted to flip him in the first place. He also has a +1 that weakens a creature, and an ultimate that will help you quickly mill out the opponent. He was played a ton in Standard control decks and has also found success in Modern, Legacy, and Vintage. At number 2, it is Delver of Secrets, a 1-mana 1/1 that will transform into the 3/2 flyer Insectile Aberration if it reveals an instant or sorcery off of the top of your library on your upkeep. I've mentioned Delver a lot in this video, so it probably doesn't come as a huge surprise that it's on this list. This double-faced 1-drop is sometimes referred to as a 1-mana 3/2 with flying because it's so easy to transform for the decks that play it. Some even consider the Delver to be the best 1-drop in the entire game, and there is certainly a good argument for that based on its success. It's played in decks which seek to win the game using nice efficient creatures like the Delver, but also pack a bunch of spells like counter magic to protect it, not to mention other spell payoffs like those we've seen in this video, like Young Pyromancer and Dreadhorde Arcanist. Delver decks have found success in every format they've been legal in, and it's likely that will continue, and Delver of Secrets is likely to gain more points, but it may never catch the number 1 card on this list, which is Snapcaster Mage, which lets you cast a cheap instant or sorcery from your graveyard when it enters the battlefield. Because the Snapcaster has Flash, this means that you can give an instant in your graveyard flashback and then immediately cast it, and that's especially potent with counter magic, but really, getting to cast any instant or sorcery from your graveyard is a great deal, especially because you also get a 2-mana 2/1. Snapcaster usually shows up in control decks, and it isn't completely unheard of for a Snapcaster deck to just win the game with this little 2-mana 2/1 as an attacker. Snapcaster Mage has also seen play in every format it's been legal in. Blue-controlled decks in all of Magic's formats have featured Snapcaster Mage, and they're going to continue to. Well, those are the 10 spell payoffs that have made the biggest impact on competitive Magic. If you're interested in owning any of them, you can find links in the description for each of them that will take you directly to the Card Kingdom store. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and share it so that others can enjoy it too. If you want to make sure you catch future MTG Top 10s, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. If you need to catch up on the over 350 MTG Top 10s I've already done, you should see the playlist on your screen now. And if you like listening to me talk about Magic, consider subscribing to my other YouTube channel, Nitsahone History, where I talk about history in the real world. Thanks for watching.